board. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the roll?
Jen Oberlin,
Present.
Irma Johnson,
Present.
Patty Cross, Brittany Sands.
Present.
Do I go on and call Kevin?
No, you call it, just know that he joins the meeting afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Ms. Conkle.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Board members, have you had the opportunity to look over the minutes from the last meeting? Did anyone have questions or comments? We would entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the June 15th, 2021 minutes.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Is there any new business from staff before we begin design review? I would like to share the chair's report for this past month. I submitted correspondence to the Kentucky Heritage Council requesting that the ARB be a consulting party to the Federal Transit Administration's National Historic Preservation Act review process. And last night, I spoke at the public hearing regarding the same, parcels B and C.
All right. Regarding administrative approvals for the time period since our last meeting, which was June the 15th through July the 13th, we did not have any administrative approvals.
All right, thank
Nothing
you.
to report.
Ms. McDonald, would you please read our first review item?
In accordance with Articles 4 and 17 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance, Kevin and Andy Breek of KB Construction are requesting a certificate of appropriateness to change the roof line on a non-historic rear addition and add an end gable that will provide shelter for a covered porch, install K-style gutters along the new roof, remove a non-historic window, install a new door and opening and door for the property located at 323 West 3rd Street. The property is more particularly identified as PVA map number 062-13-13-002.00.
Ms. Berenberg, will you be giving staff reports today?
Vicki Bierenberg, Historic Preservation Officer. And our first staff report this evening is at 323 West 3rd Street. This particular property is late 19th or early 20th century vernacular Victorian two-story historic house. It is shown on the 1901 Sanborn map. And it is contributing to the South Frankfort Neighborhood National Register District. The applicants are proposing to change the roof line of a non-historic addition on the rear of the property, which was built in 1964 and is outside of the period of significance for the district. It currently has a shed roof, and they're going to change it to a gabled roof, which will allow the creation of a covered porch that currently is not there. And there is a non-historic window on the rear of the historic addition, because the building has more than one addition on it, that they are planning to remove, and they are going to alter that opening to accommodate a door, and that will be the rear entrance. Here is the property depicted on the PVA map. And here are some photos taken. This is at the rear, photo of the non-historic addition. You can see the shed roof. It's very 1964, mid-century looking. Here's the side view. And here is a rendering of the plans showing the existing conditions on the left with the shed roof addition, and then the proposed changes on the right, where the roof line has been changed to a 412 slope, gable ended with the covered porch, and you can see the location of the new door opening. So staff has evaluated this proposal, and we feel that the plans as submitted are compatible with the zoning regulations and also the design guidelines for the special capital district, as well as the following suggested facts, which are that, number one, the rear addition is not historic. Number two, the change in the roof shape for the non-historic addition is okay, according to the special capital design guidelines. The window being removed on the rear elevation is not a historic window. It was installed at the same time that that rear addition was built in 1964. The property currently has K-style gutters and downspouts on the historic portion of the building. And this project is also applying for the State Historic Preservation Tax Credit Program, and it has received preliminary approval for that. So if the ARB elects to, uh-oh, are we not plugged in back here?
Now we know what Nicole pulled.
Exactly. Sabotage.
Okay, so if the ARB elects to issue a certificate of appropriateness for this request, staff recommends that the following conditions be applied. Number one, the final design and material for that rear entry door will be submitted to staff for approval. Number two, the existing open building permit shall be amended to reflect the work approved in this request. Number three, any additional projects requiring a building permit shall require review and approval by the ARB unless a certificate of no exterior effect is issued. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Let's see. Nope, I don't have any more pictures for you on that one.
Do any board members have questions for staff? I have one.
Okay.
On page 2, under the description of significance, the staff report states with its original windows and siding, it exhibits a fairly high level of integrity. Will either of the changes proposed here, will it still retain the high level of integrity as stated in the?
Yes, it is our opinion that these changes will not affect the current level of integrity because the addition is non-historic. And the window that is being removed on the rear to create the door opening is also not original to the building. And you probably noticed in the staff report there are a couple of other non-historic windows that are being administratively approved for removal, which will actually improve the integrity of the building.
Great, thank you. If there aren't any more questions, thank you.
Okay.
Will the applicants like to speak?
Kevin Breek, 505 St. Clair.
Have you read the staff report, and are you in agreement with the staff suggestions as stated?
Yes.
Do you have anything else that you would like us to know or important details you'd like to share about the property or the application?
Just really excited to do it.
Do any board members have questions for the applicants? Were there any citizen comments on this application?
Jordan did tell me right before the meeting started that he received one call that was in support of the application.
Okay. And is there anyone here that would like to speak about this application? Thanks. Are there any discussion points that the board would like to bring up? All right, we could entertain a motion.
A motion that in accordance with Articles 4 and 17 of the City of Frankfurt zoning ordinance, we issue a certificate of appropriateness for the property located at 323 West 3rd Street, including the 3 recommended staff suggestions.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Ms. McDonald, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Oberlin?
Yes.
Ms. Conkle?
Yes.
Ms. Sims?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your investment in Frankfurt.
Did we need this date that had them used or?
Thank you.
For the
Join us
record,
back.
yeah, for the record, Mr. Breek is joining us back on the board.
You didn't do that. I think you did.
Would you read our next item for review?
We might be waiting.
No. I don't think so.
In accordance with Articles 4 and 17 of the City of Frankfurt zoning ordinance, Taylor Marshall of Taylor Marshall Property LLC is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to remove an existing window on the rear addition, install a new door opening and rear door in the location of the window at a small deck and stairs at the rear entrance of the property located at 612 Shelby Street. The property is more particularly identified as PVA map number 062-14-06-004.00.
Staff report, please.
We are really making Jordan work tonight, aren't we?
Uh-oh.
I'm not sure why we're having such technical difficulty, but anyway, I appreciate that he fixed this. Okay, so the second application tonight is at 612 Shelby Street, which you are probably aware is part of is part of a significant historic district in the city of Frankfurt. It's a contributing structure to the Frankfurt Barracks District, which was listed in 1975. I believe that was our second National Register district that was designated after the Corner and Celebrities. And it is significant to both the city of Frankfurt and the state of Kentucky as a rare example of post-Civil War military architecture. Apparently, this building is part of a collection on the block that was constructed in 1871, which is post-Civil War during the Reconstruction, but late in that period of Reconstruction. And it was built specifically to house federal troops that were stationed in Frankfurt, kind of to keep the peace. There had been some violence that had occurred post-Civil War, including an incident that is recorded at the Capital City Museum that happened on a federal mail train where an individual, an African-American mail clerk, I guess, was brutalized pretty significantly, and after that happened, the federal government decided to station some troops here for a while, and they were here in Frankfurt between 1871 and 1876, and after that period ended, then the property kind of went back to private ownership. But it is significant. It is a vernacular kind of architectural style brick, and the proposal, that's part of this application, that the property has been used as an office since 1984. It received a conditional use permit continuously from that time for that particular use. It is now vacant, and the current owner is going to turn it into 2 apartments. And as part of the rehabilitation, they would like to add a new rear entrance in the location where there exists a window on the frame addition at the rear of the property. So let's see here.
No.
It's not working again.
Would you like us to hang on and like take a 5-minute recess to see if we can get the technical? Okay.
Let's finish,
You wanna
we
just
have
keep going?
photographs, let's use those, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
Okay, all right. So if you look on page, oh, I'm back up, okay, great. Awesome. I don't know what that is. Okay.
It's not going away.
These do not like us tonight. Okay. Let's back up. Okay, so there's the PDA map that shows the location of the property. This 19th century map actually was included in the National Register District. It shows the district as a whole. This map was probably created shortly after the federal troops vacated the buildings, because it looks like the buildings have private owners' names on the map. Here's a picture of the area where the alterations are proposed. You can see right here is the window that is proposed for removal. And here is a better view that kind of shows that area where they're planning to build a landing. A door will be installed here. They'll build a landing. There'll be stairs that come down. And the intention is to match the existing design of the railings that exist now, which you can see here for one of the apartments, and also match the existing doors that are on this particular unit. Here's the architect's plans for that show the landing here, and the stairs down. And here's the view that shows the installation of the new door where the window exists now. So staff has reviewed this proposal, and we find it to be compatible with the special capital zoning regulations and the design guidelines. Sorry about that. And the following suggested facts, which are that the window that is proposed for removal is located on the frame addition at the rear. It is not highly visible. You actually have to be in that little alley to see it. The new rear entry will provide an additional exit to the second apartment. The applicant is proposing to match the new features to the existing features. And finally, the applicant is seeking both federal and state historic rehabilitation tax credits for this project. So if the ARB elects to issue a certificate of appropriateness, staff recommends that the standard 2 conditions be applied.
Are there any questions from the board for staff? Bear with me 1 second. I have one question for a point of clarity if nobody else has anything. Okay, on the Kentucky Individual Building Survey form and the character defining features, it talks about the form, window and door lintels, Victorian-inspired shed roof, wood porches, turn posts, etc. So all of those are all of the character defining features None of those are actually talking about this more recent addition, right?
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
All right.
Will the applicant like to speak? Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, Bruce Rogers, CBR Architects, P.O. Box 4635, Louisville, Kentucky,
Thank you.
40204, representing Taylor Marshall.
All right.
So really just here, it's pretty simple modification to an addition off the back of the really significant historical building that I learned about the history of it. So just really here just for any questions that came up.
Have you read the staff report and are
Yes,
you
I
in
have.
agreement?
Yes,
Okay.
and we'll resubmit the plans for the building permit.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any points of discussion the board would like to bring up? All right, we'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for the properly located at 612 Shelby Street in accordance with Articles 4 and 17, Frankfurt zoning ordinance, for Taylor Marshall Property LLC, in order to remove the existing window on the rear addition, install a new door opening and rear door in the location of the window, and add a small deck and stairs at the rear entrance of the property. Along with the recommendations from staff, the 2 recommendations and conditions that staff listed.
I'll second.
I forgot to ask, I apologize, but were there citizen comments on this?
I did receive one call today from the adjoining property owner at the rear. She just wanted clarification because she's read in the legal ad a reference to a deck. And so she had visions of something much larger than what we were talking about. I explained that it was really more of a landing at the exterior entrance. And that seemed to satisfy her. She didn't really have anything negative to say. She just wanted clarification.
Thank you. And thank you. Ms. McDonald, would you call the roll?
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Oberlin?
Yes.
Mr. Bree?
Yes.
Ms. Conkle?
Yes.
And Ms. Samms?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your investment in Frankfurt.
Which one's first? 19.
Yes.
I have it somewhere here.
Would you read the next item of review, please?
In accordance with Articles 4, 16, and 17 of the City of Frankfurt zoning ordinance, Jen Williamson, on behalf of Legacy Property Group LLC, is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to add a 3rd-story rooftop bar addition, modify the existing treatment at the rear elevation, revise the storefront design for the property located at 305-307 St. Clair Street. The property is more particularly identified as PVA map number 061-24-13-019.00.
Thank you guys for helping with the technical difficulties on the spot. Ms. Beerenberg, would you like to give the staff report?
Okay. So this 3rd application is 305-307 St. Clair Street, and this is an amendment to a proposal that you have seen previously. The first thing I want to mention about this property is that it is non-contributing to both the Frankfurt Commercial District and the Central Frankfurt Historic District. So because it is non-contributing, we have a little more flexibility in the way that we look at the project and apply the design guidelines. So the proposal here for this property is to construct a rooftop deck and bar with a small addition and a new railing. And there is also a proposed amendment to the storefront design that was previously approved. Let's see. Here's the location on the PBA map. Despite being non-contributing, this is a very old building. It is included on the 1886 Sanborn map, which is the earliest one we have of Frankfurt. And these renderings depict the rooftop bar addition that is proposed, and you can see the addition is back here. There's going to be a railing right here, which is proposed to be metal and painted black. Here's a side view. You can see the addition portion is located way in back. This is the previously approved storefront design that you did issue a COA for. And included these 4 windows here with bulkheads below and 2 transoms above the windows, the double door with the transom above. That proposal has been amended to this design, which the transom and doors here don't appear to have changed. But we now have 2 large double hung windows that extend into the space that was formerly allocated to the transoms. And if you look at the historic postcard of St. Clair that's on the front of the Russ Hatter book that shows that particular block of St. Clair, this is a close-up of the building, and you can see that the windows are tall and 2/2. And somewhat comparable to what is being proposed this evening. I do want to show you this photo because this is the reason the building is non-contributing. It had suffered so many insensitive alterations over the years, including the loss of the second-story windows and alterations to the storefront. When the initial commercial district nomination was completed, it was actually given a construction date, like late 20th century, because they didn't realize because it had been altered so much. And staff has evaluated this proposal. We feel that it is compatible with the design guidelines. The rooftop deck addition is recessed. There will be a railing and that will be visible, but when you look at the building as a whole and the cumulative effect of the restoration of the second-story windows and the fact that the new storefront is going to be more comparable to what existed historically, we do feel like this building, despite being non-contributing, is actually helping to increase the overall integrity of the block. Here's a picture that Jordan so swiftly inserted into our presentation right before this meeting started that shows you the existing conditions on the rooftop. So, as I mentioned previously, staff does feel that this proposal is compatible with the central business design guidelines and the zoning regulations, as well as the following suggested facts. This property is related to the property next door, and the rehabilitation is happening simultaneously. The previously approved rooftop deck on that building is no longer going to be constructed. And this property's rooftop deck is, I don't want to say it's a replacement for that, but You're not gonna have two rooftop decks right next to one another now. The previous rooftop deck proposal is no longer going to be constructed. In addition, the addition is set back, not visible from the street. The railing will be visible, but it is needed to meet the building code. And the proposed 2/2 light storefront windows have a similar configuration to the building's historic storefront. And again, this building is non-contributing. If the ARB elects to issue a certificate of appropriateness for this proposal, staff recommends that the standard 2 conditions be applied.
Are there any questions for staff? I have one. What is the height of the railing and the depth of the setback?
The railing height is 42 inches, which is the height required by the building code. And I missed the last part of your question.
How far is the setback?
How far is the setback? I believe it is not setback, that it is close to the
You can see.
front of the building.
It's pretty close.
Will this be like a dining location or?
I believe that the building is proposed to be used as a restaurant, so I am guessing it will be a space related to that, but I'm sure the applicant's representative could elaborate on that. I will go back to these renderings,
Jen can probably answer that.
which kind of,
Setback.
Looks like tables
yeah,
and
there's
chairs.
some tables, and it looks like this is a bar over here.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Any more
Anything else?
questions? Thanks. The applicant like to speak?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Jen Williamson, Spangler Williamson, Architecture and Engineering. We're at 407 Wapping Street. And this is about 305, 307 St. Clair Street.
Thank you.
I'm just here to answer questions you may have. I think Vicki did a good job talking about the project and the contributing status of the building. The restaurant there is a restaurant plan for the ground floor of 309, 311 St. Clair Street, which is also a part of the project, and those two buildings will be, those two properties are being combined together for the overall project. And there's intended light food service up this rooftop bar that will be operating out of the ground floor kitchen.
Have you read the staff report and you're in agreement?
Yes.
Are there-
Jen, entry to that is just through the building and up the steps?
Yes, there's a residential lobby that is entered through this storefront. There's a separate entry door to the restaurant from 309 St. Clair. And there is a joined elevator lobby that both spaces will feed to, and an elevator which is set back into the building that comes up in the approximate location of this rooftop addition would drop you to this vestibule that would allow you to step out to that rooftop. And I will say that in terms of the question with regard to the depth of the guardrail, it is sitting to the front of the building. The building's front cornice, which is existing, and we're going to do as much as we can to rehabilitate it. It may likely be more reconstruction given the deterioration of that wood, but the shelf of the cornice itself projects probably another 16 to 18 inches from the face of the building, so there is that amount of projection at least from, we wouldn't be tying the guardrail into that feature, it would be back at the structure line.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Thank you. there any points of discussion anyone that would like to bring us to talk about? Were there citizen comments for this?
All right, for this project, I received 2 phone calls from adjoining property owners. Both had properties on West Main Street, whose back of the buildings share a property line with this case. The first one was Mr. Guy Leach. He didn't have any issues with it. He was in support of the project. He just had some general inquiries. Another one, Mr. Jonathan Otis, just had questions about the property line and how the common wall might change since they share that. I assured him that as part of this project, a consolidation plat will have to occur with the Marcus building adjacent because they're connected. These projects are connected in doors that go in between the two, and that we'll be sure to include him with any, when that's being reviewed, we'll be sure to include him with that process. So he seemed content with that.
Thank you. If there are no points of discussion, we would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. In accordance with Articles 4, 16, and 17, I would like to make a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the property at 305, 307 St. Clair Street to add a 3rd-story rooftop bar addition and to revise the storefront design for the property, taking into account the two suggested staff conditions.
A second.
Will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Oberlin?
Yes.
Mr. Brink?
Yes.
Ms. Conkle?
Yes.
And Ms. Sims?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next. Uh-oh. You want to take 5 minutes? I could use the bathroom.
We're gonna pause for just two minutes.
Kevin, I'm in the rest of it.
Hey.
Don't fall.
While we're paused, how is this affecting any kind of, like, are we live anywhere? Is the public aware of what's going on with the technical difficulties?
Yes, it's not set up like that, it's going on, so hope that it's, if not, we're hoping for them to be here.
Figure out, what was going on with. He left 2 weeks ago. I think he alerted the board. So, but that-
There was that one time that we were Zooming.
He doesn't have that. It's just not really, I think everybody was, agreement with the 1-to-1. So there was probably some mess up with numbers. I'm guessing not somebody paying close attention to what they needed to be doing. But the review didn't want to take a hit on that one. I think it was just, fell right back in the president's lap. He didn't do anything.
All right, we seem to be back up and running. Ms. McDonald, if you would read the next review item, please.
Yeah.
In accordance with Articles 4, 16, and 17 of the City of Frankfort zoning ordinance, Jen Williamson, on behalf of Legacy Property Group, LLC, is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to modify the exterior treatment at the rear elevation and develop a linear courtyard for the property located, at the rear of the property located at 309, 311 St. Clair. The property is more particularly identified as PBA map number 061-24-13-020.00.
See if you get hurry through this before the computer stops working. This, of course, is a related project to the one that you just reviewed. This is at 309, 311, also known as the Marcus Building. This building is also a two-part commercial block historic building. It has 4 stories. It is contributing to the Frankfurt Commercial Historic District. It was actually, if you remember what it used to look like before the windows were put back, it was actually determined non-contributing when the Central Frankfurt Historic District nomination was completed in 2009. But as part of the rehabilitation and with the reintroduction of the historic window openings on the front, the Park Service has again certified it as historic, and so it now, once again, is considered a contributing building. So the proposal here, again, amendments to things that you have already previously seen and approved. And the proposal, actually, everything really affects the rear, not the front of the property. The rear cladding that was previously approved, the design of that is changing somewhat. Some of the previously approved balconies and openings at the rear, the configuration of those is changing. And this proposal also includes the construction of a linear ground level courtyard between the building and Lewis Street. So we have reviewed this proposal, and we do find it to be compatible with the Central Business District Design Guidelines. Here is a depiction of the property on the PDA map. Here's a photo that was taken a few weeks ago of the existing conditions at the rear. And here is a rendering that shows some of the changes that are proposed from the Lewis Street sidewalk. And here we have a close-up of the rear of the building. You can see that the cladding at the exterior is a little more simplified, the panel design, than what you previously approved. These changes, of course, are being made after the review by the National Park Service, because this is a tax credit project. So after getting their recommendations, the applicant is coming back to you with these changes. So we have a more simplified design for the rear exterior cladding. Some of the openings on this elevation that faces Lewis Street have changed somewhat. And you'll notice that the balconies have been eliminated here. But looking on this elevation, which is over on this side, we have some changes as well. And you'll notice that the doors, which were previously, I think, over here on this side, have been moved to right here so that they share the same balcony as these rooms will over here. Here's another rendering, kind of gives you a feel for what is planned for the courtyard. So again, this is a tax credit project, and these changes that are proposed are related to the National Park Service review. And staff has evaluated, and we feel that this is a compatible project with Central Business Design Guidelines and the current zoning regulations. And these following suggested facts. Number one, the applicant is seeking federal and state historic preservation tax credits. Number two, the applicant must meet the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation to receive the tax credits. Of course, the standards for rehabilitation are a little more stringent than the design guidelines that we use to govern this district. Number three, the modification to the previous ARB approved design have been reviewed and preliminarily approved by the Park Service and the Kentucky Heritage Council. And number four, the rooftop bar addition that was previously approved for this building by this board will no longer be constructed. And if the ARB elects to issue a certificate of appropriateness for this project, Staff recommends that the standard 2 conditions be applied. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have questions for staff? Thank you.
So what can I tell you?
Have you read the staff report?
Yes.
And are you in agreement with everything?
Yes.
Is there anything not mentioned in the staff report you want to share with us?
No, the only thing I think that I want to say at the moment is just to remember in 2019 when we brought the application in from the back of the building to Lewis Street, we were showing primarily like grass lawn and a sidewalk just for the purpose of egress. With taking the rooftop bar off the top of the building, we find need to put additional tables, and that is a large part of the driver for the development of the hardscaped courtyard that would extend to Lewis Street, and we're hoping it will add to the downtown environment with that program being on the ground.
Now, is this part of, is it a condo or apartments? I can't remember.
The project has a number of apartment units. It has been permitted as an R1 occupancy, so it is designed for like a short-term stay type of dwelling.
And the tables are, is it, will that be a restaurant or will it be?
Those are to serve the ground floor restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah. So the entire ground floor courtyard
That's all.
is for the ground floor restaurant
Gotcha.
business. And then the balconies are, the balconies are actually providing access to the units that are in the, in that section of the building.
Oh, so those aren't, okay.
They're not private balconies.
That's why I was like,
No.
I know, it was, yeah.
that makes, yeah.
Are there any questions from the board for the applicant? Thank you. Anything the board would like to discuss or bring up? Were there citizen comments for this application? Okay. All right. Then we would entertain a motion.
Go for it, Kevin.
I would like to make a motion in accordance with Articles 4, 16, and 17 of the City of Frankfort's zoning ordinance that Legacy Property get a certificate of appropriateness for the courtyard at the rear of the property located at 309, 311 St. Clair. And was there something else?
Staff suggestions.
The staff suggestions, the two staff suggestions also. I thought
I'll
we had
second.
changes or something.
Will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Overland?
Yes.
Mr. Breek?
Yes.
Ms. Conkle?
Yes.
Ms. Samms?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Just wanted to get a clarification if the action is being taken separately for the certificate of appropriateness on the exterior wall treatment.
It's mentioned in this, it is all
Yeah.
one thing.
I didn't mention it.
He didn't.
Thank you for your investment.
I skipped
So
it.
you can thank Legacy.
Right. All right. So that's the end of the design review portion of the meeting. Oh, sorry. Why did this separate? Hang on one second.
Moving it. I just skipped it.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't mean to. thought I was missing something.
After design review, we have an update from staff on the work plan and CLG grant projects updates. Pardon? Mhm.
Jordan was just showing me that he has put the work plan on the city website.
Nice.
Great,
Ooh.
thank you.
So I made a copy, you all have it, so you can be reminded of
What you put on this. And I believe this happened before I arrived, right? This is like a late 2020 thing, or?
Yeah,
Early
we started working
2021?
on it in January, and then we adopted it officially in February.
So there are 8 items here. Guess we can start from the top. Number 1 is update special capital zoning district design guidelines. If you've been following the Board of Commissioners meetings, you'll know they just approved the budget, and there was a line item that they approved that allocated $30,000 towards the update of the special capital design guidelines. So I know that the planning director, Eric Copley, is currently working on an RFP for that particular project. So that is underway. Anybody have any questions about that?
That's great, thank you.
Okay. Number 2, seek a memorandum of agreement with the Kentucky Heritage Council regarding the distribution of historic survey forms or obtain KHC survey forms for internal use only. You may be aware that the Heritage Council is in the middle of digitizing their survey forms, and I don't believe that they are back at the office yet. We do have some of our survey forms, as you know, because I do include them with your staff reports. There are other survey forms for areas outside of our historic districts that we do not currently have copies of. And it is my understanding that we will be able to get digital copies of those when the digitization process is finished. KHC also has a GIS database that is very proprietary. It's not shared with the public. But they may be willing to allow us to have access to it. Not that we could like incorporate it into our GIS or anything, but we may be able to be allowed to have access just to Frankfurt's records on that system if we are willing to buy a subscription. So we need to learn a little bit more about that. I'm not really sure this is not something they normally do, so I'm not even sure they have a approved process in place for that yet. But the conversations have been happening.
Great.
Number 3, conduct meeting procedures / Robert's Rules training for ARB members and invite other city boards to participate. I don't have anything to report here. Do you, Jordan? No.
Do you guys think we should push forward with that?
I think all boards need
I think it would be good for the city in general.
Yeah, I do too.
Would it be possible to maybe try to reach out to other boards and get their interest, and maybe see us between now and like the end of October? We could do that. Is that a reasonable, based on time load or workload and time?
I don't see why not. I'm not sure whether or not the other boards receive any training like that.
We aren't aware of them doing
You
it
ain't-
either.
okay.
And it'd be nice if you threw a luncheon in with it.
Just say
It might be more popular.
Yes, I-
Otherwise, I can account a lot of folks being busy that day.
So what did I say, the mid-October or late October? Mid-October? Thanks.
Number 4, prioritize a list of potential new historic districts and/or landmarks. I don't know if you as a board have thoughts on that particular topic.
Is this where we talked about the formation of a committee?
I thought that the plan, as we left it and please correct me if I'm wrong, because, you know, my brain gets jumbled up, but I think that the plan was for us to come up with something by the end of the year to give staff for moving into the next year. Is that?
It's true. I, as a realtor, I come into different subdivisions, and I was mentioning that Montrose Park
I do
seemed like.
remember that, yes, Montrose Park. I would say, my recommendation as staff would be to take the initial steps toward a designation by thinking about survey, because that's typically the first step, is you do the survey work, and then you have the information gathered that helps you with the evaluation process. So I guess as we learn more from KHC, we can determine whether or not Montrose Park has been surveyed. If it has been surveyed, we can use that information possibly to continue the discussion of what type of designation, whether it be National Register or, which would be my recommendation maybe as a first step, because that opens those properties up to tax incentives,
I was
which is
thinking
always
about
kind of a gateway to
Mm-hmm.
the next thing. So, yes, let's find out if Montrose Park has been surveyed. If it has not been surveyed, that might be a good project for you all to recommend for a future CLG grant application.
All of the special historic, it's been surveyed because it's,
Because
it's
it
not
is
city.
because it is designated.
right. So, but it has. I would
Yeah,
assume.
I would imagine, although, for those things on the National Register that were nominated and
Mhm.
designated in the late 70s and early 80s, the survey records probably aren't that good.
Okay. Just a curious question.
Yeah.
Did we also talk about the water tower at Cove Springs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We did, and before we get to that, and please don't let me forget it, but, so moving forward, in addition to Montrose Park, if other board members would like to put forth ideas for future survey, would it be best to submit those to you guys? Or should we compile a list and present it to you at one time? What's best for you?
I don't know how it's been done in the past, but, yeah, I think maybe compiling a list, and adopting it in some sort of format, right? And then be aware that the certified local government grant applications in the past are mailed towards the end of the year, like November, and then the city would have until late February or March to submit the application. So that would be the window for discussion of potential grant projects.
So November, December would be a good time to have a list ready.
Yeah.
I will make a note for the November agenda.
Yeah, because I certainly would want to gather public input
Yes.
on something of that nature as well. You know, I want to provide an opportunity for that.
Okay.
But I'm always confused, Madam Chair, how we arrive at conversations to get our list. Is that through a committee, a subset committee of this group, you know?
If memory serves for this, what we did was, there was no committee, it was the entire board, because when we were discussing the work plan, several members had really good ideas.
Mhm.
So I guess it is now probably incumbent upon us to get it on the agenda, so that when we do have the list ready, it can be presented and discussed with the public.
Okay.
And I am hoping to, if y'all are in agreement, to ask in November for it to be on the November agenda, if people want to come in for public comment and participate.
Should we
Does that sound-
have something on the October to discuss
October. Okay.
what should go on the list?
Sure. October to present and then November to vote. Or
We could still have public comment and then we could still add things.
Would it be October, we present our list, November, we invite the public back to comment?
And is that enough time to apply for the grant? If the grant is due in November?
Well, we could still do December
Late-
too.
The grant application would be due in late February or March.
So
So that would be.
we would
the-
have plenty of
Okay.
time to still
Yeah.
amend and discuss.
So that would be, board members have their property lists, if any, they want to recommend for survey for the October agenda. So it
And
can be
then-
presented, and then public comment could be gathered in November.
In December, if we need to change anything, we can.
Sure.
Yeah,
Do we have a meeting in December?
Oh, no,
Yeah, I don't think we do.
January. I
Yeah.
mean, it's still plenty of time.
We have actually had, I know that it's not slated, but Mr. Miller, correct me if I'm mistaken again, but I think we have had,
We've had
if we
meetings
have
in
applications,
December.
we do go ahead and have a December meeting typically. So
I know we've done that. in
We
the
have,
past.
we have in the past.
We've
So-
also skipped a month in the summer in the past.
So going back to your question about Cove Springs. Sorry, we derailed the discussion there, but Cove Springs update on that project?
Cove Spring was a topic of conversation when I first started, because we were in the middle of the pandemic and we had an open certified local government grant to do a preservation education workshop that I was feeling wasn't gonna happen. This was, January, and the vaccination situation had not really picked up yet at that point, and I was starting to feel like maybe we needed to move the money to a different type of project. And so it was discussed, I discussed it with Sean Pickens, I discussed it with planning and zoning. We thought maybe we should try to pursue a National Register designation for the waterworks at Cove Spring. Okay, I resurveyed the property, I submitted it to the Heritage Council for an evaluation. I asked them to kick it up to the Park Service because I really, it has some integrity issues. It's really kind of a ruin of the waterworks, right? But I was hoping it might still be eligible under criterion A, being associated with important events in Frankfort's history. So I asked them to send it up to the Park Service, and they did, and the Park Service comments came back that they did not feel it was eligible under criterion A, and that it is probably only eligible under criterion D, which is the archaeology designation, archaeology criterion. And given the size of the grant, which was not that large, I think it was $6,600 or something.
Total project's like 11,000.
The total project with the match was 11,000, yeah. And knowing that the archaeology nomination would probably require some additional investigation, I didn't think the budget and the timeline really fit pursuing that type of nomination. But then the stars aligned and the vaccination train really took off. And the original plan for the preservation workshop, which was with Bob Yap, Bob let us know that he would be willing to do it, and he could do it in August, which is right at the very end of the grant cycle. And the Heritage Council actually gave us a little buffer of a couple extra weeks. And so we do have this workshop scheduled now. That grant is going to be carried out the way it was originally intended. And the workshop is number 5 on the work plan as well. So that is what's happening. We have it scheduled for Friday, August 20th and Saturday, August 21st. Friday will be all-day sessions with a keynote lunch at the library in the big room. And Saturday will be a small workshop across the street at the Letcher Lindsay House on historic masonry repair. That is open to up to 12 applicants. Am I leaving anything out?
Register now?
You can register now. The link, the Eventbrite link is live. You can register through the city's Facebook page. It's on the city website. I don't know about that. We'll get that on there if it's not. But it's definitely on the city Facebook page. And we have been sharing it on social media, so I think that there have been a number of people who have registered already.
I was curious.
We could share it also if we so chose on social media.
Do you know how many have registered so far for the hands-on?
Later.
I was just curious. I'd like to do it, but I don't like, I would rather somebody else do it.
You can also register in a lot of different apps. Like if you only have time to do the keynote lunch, you can
Yeah.
pay $10 and do that, or you can register for all day on Friday. If you want to register for the whole weekend, you can, but that's $35.
That's 2 lunches. That's a pretty good deal.
So anyway, we're very excited to have Bob back to Frankfurt. He gives a good workshop, and they generally tend to be well attended. So, and we have been circulating the registration information outside of Frankfurt as well. So
Thank you.
I know the Heritage Council has put it on their website, and the new CLG coordinator has forwarded it on to other certified local governments in the state.
Is the
We're gonna
limit,
share it, the trust.
And the Bluegrass Trust.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brittany.
is the limit of 12 because of constraints on space, COVID, or?
I think that's Bob's determination, right?
Okay.
That's what he
Gotcha.
can handle, or that the.
More than 12, so, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to number 6.
The preservation training seminar, yes.
Preservation training with real estate professionals.
Yes.
I will let you know that, I do know that Irma was able to get space.
We have a lot of space. We have choices. The Whitaker building at the Whitaker Bank is available.
Okay.
And they're very gracious, and I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name. But anyway, he was very eager to, he called us. He called me. I don't even know, how he knew what we were talking about, but
Okay.
maybe he had seen our meeting and wanted to participate. Then I talked to the Lexington Board of Realtors, and they offered their space too.
Oh, wow, okay.
So to open it up to more people, they were concerned that there would be maybe a cap of 40, 50 down here, where they could have 150 if we needed that many people. I don't know that we would, but at
Okay.
any rate.
Well, I was going to suggest that you all think about how you might feel about partnering, because I know that the Kentucky Trust for Historic Preservation is also planning a real estate workshop.
Okay.
And it seems like it might be a good opportunity to join
Good idea.
forces and have a bigger event. And they are talking about doing it late in the year, November, December. And Preservation Kentucky, which is the state advocacy group, is also involved and is planning to provide the certified instructor.
Okay.
So if you all are interested in that, it seems like,
Have we have any idea of where they're proposing the location? And where I'm
think
coming
they're
from,
flexible.
guys, is I really want real estate agents from Frankfurt
Agreed.
Yeah.
to get there.
It's true.
You know,
right.
I love the idea. I just don't
No,
want
I
it to
think
be.
it's here.
Oh, in
Frankfurt-centric,
Frankfurt.
yes.
Awesome.
Was,
I think the Kentucky Trust was hoping to have it in Frankfurt.
yeah.
Right.
But they would be, well, I just
I-
think maybe you all might want to think about that partnership.
I think it would make sense. It would give us another check off our list, and we wouldn't have to do as much of the work.
Wouldn't have to reinvent everything,
Yeah.
right?
And
When
we-
they've done it before.
And
That's
we
true.
might be able to benefit from greater publicity and that sort of thing if there's
Mhm.
more than one organization involved.
And also, if we did decide to do something ourselves, we'd have to let the Lexington Board of Realtors and the Kentucky Real Estate Commission know 90 days ahead of time in order to get credit for realtors, which is the only reason that they would, be pushing to make sure they got their 3 hours
That's right.
of continuing ed.
Right.
So we probably would have a hard time reaching that goal right at this time anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing. I know from teaching these in the past, the instructors need to be certified first.
They do.
Yeah.
And then you have to go through whatever the protocol is so that the realtors can actually get their credits as well. So,
Ms. Johnson, are you comfortable remaining the point of
Sure.
contact for
And I'll
this?
check, who's doing this at the Historic Trust?
I think Eric Wisman is
Okay.
working on coordinating it, but he
Yeah.
has been, my understanding, working with Betsy Hatfield, who is the Executive Director of Preservation Kentucky.
Okay.
So I'll make sure that you get their contact
Thank you.
information.
That's
I'm not-
exciting.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with her, but I would like to. I think several of our realtors, even in my office, had mentioned feeling uncomfortable in certain, areas and would like to have the training. So I'm glad that it's going to be available to them.
Okay.
Is Janie Rice the instructor? She was the last time Preservation Kentucky did.
I don't know. I know she has been certified in the past,
Yeah,
but
she
it's the kind of thing where you have to get yourself recertified on a
Okay,
regular
yeah.
basis. And I don't know if I know I've lapsed. I would have to reapply.
Yeah.
But I don't know but I'm sure Janie Rice does a good job.
Yeah, she did it the last time they hosted it at the Thomas Hunt Morgan House.
All right. We've kind of knocked out 7 and 8, so we've done all our review meetings and
So we're
provided
doing
any
well.
updates. Thank you.
And I think the final thing on the agenda is an update on the CLG grants, right? And I
Yes.
did take the time to tell you about the one that's paying for this workshop. But I also included a copy of a letter that I received from the Heritage Council to let the city know that we have been awarded $15,000 to develop an African-American historic context for Frankfurt that will help us to evaluate resources in the community associated with African-American heritage. And I'm very excited about this. In fact, I got a call today from the National Register Coordinator at the state because there are some congregants at the Green Hill Cemetery that have been thinking about a National Register nomination for their building. But it's a very heavy lift for someone to do that by themselves. And it helps tremendously if you've got that historic context already developed and written that you can refer to as you put the nomination together. So I think it's really great and kind of serendipitous that I got that call today. And now she is able to tell them that the city of Frankfurt is going to be working on this, which will help them to achieve that designation. And what I was going to recommend is that perhaps the board could get a volunteer subcommittee of a couple of you who might want to help work with me on this project, to help guide the project. I'm
Ms.
just
Sams
getting
has
to the point
volunteered.
now where I want to put together the RFP, but once we get a consultant on board, I think it would be really helpful to have members of the community on an advisory committee.
Is there another volunteer?
I'd love to.
All right. So Ms. Sams and Ms. Johnson
Okay,
would love to be
awesome.
that committee.
That's wonderful. Thank you both.
And what are you calling that committee?
What would we call the committee?
Mhm.
Advisory Committee for the African American Historic Context
Thank you.
Report. Or project, let's call it a project.
Thank you, guys.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, I think that's all I have.
Thank you. All right. Is there anything else that we need to discuss this evening? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
I'm having, what was it, like 8 different?
Irma, your night continues, huh?
It does.
So, one question. Who put together my report? My name has a C in it.